Mr Owens said he understood Mr Boulten and Mr Hodges were meeting with person 66 on Wednesday. Person 66 is, or at least had been scheduled, to give evidence on Friday in these proceedings, and had not filed any application to set aside his subpoena, he said. The newspaper's legal team has now issued a subpoena to Mr Boulten and Mr Hodges, and a notice to produce to Mr Roberts-Smith, seeking what Mr Owens described as evidence of communications between those groups of people and these two witnesses about their participation in the proceedings. Mr Roberts-Smith is suing for defamation over a series of news reports in 2018 he says portray him as a war criminal. The Age and the Herald, owned by Nine, and the Canberra Times, now under separate ownership, allege Mr Roberts-Smith committed or was involved in 6 murders of Afghans under the control of Australian troops, when they cannot be killed under the rules of engagement. Mr Roberts-Smith maintains any killings were carried out lawfully in the heat of battle. Later on Wednesday, Justice Anthony Basanko reversed a ruling that a serving SAS soldier, dubbed Person 14, was not required to answer questions about whether he had spoken to any journalists before 2019 about his service in Afghanistan. Person 14 told the court that he had spoken to one of the journalists who wrote the articles at the center of the case, investigative reporter Chris Masters, at a meeting in January 2018. He said Masters asked him if he had heard a rumor about 2 alleged incidents in Afghanistan, about which Person 14 has given evidence in court. Person 14 said he told Masters he had heard those rumors, and that no follow-up questions were asked. He initially said he had no further contact with Masters, but later said he recalled a second meeting in Canberra in 2018, where he also met investigative journalist Nick Mackenzie. He said he could not recall what was said at the meeting. "Are you telling the truth?" Mr Moses said. "Yes. I don't have a recollection of that meeting," Person 14 said. He said he met Mackenzie and Masters a couple of times in Canberra after that, in early 2018. He said he could not recall what was discussed. "It was more like catch-ups and seeing how you're going," Person 14 said. "It was just morning coffee. It wasn't anything about the first meeting with Chris." He said he definitely didn't discuss operations in Afghanistan in those meetings. Separately, Mr Roberts-Smith is seeking to continue his legal action against his estranged ex-wife, and has filed an application for leave to appeal against an unfavorable ruling of Justice Robert Bromwich in January. Mr Roberts-Smith launched action against his former wife, Emma Roberts, on the eve of his defamation trial to find out if she gave confidential information to the newspaper's lawyers. In response to that action, Ms. Roberts was ordered to provide certain documents to the court and explain how she obtained them, while the newspapers and their lawyers in the defamation proceedings were subpoenaed for any documents Ms. Roberts had given them. Ms. Roberts complied with the orders, and no documents arose from the subpoenas. Mr. Roberts-Smith's lawyers subsequently made an application to have Ms. Roberts cross-examined. Justice Bromwich rejected that application and said many of the assertions made against Ms. Roberts had been shown to be ill-founded. Ms. Roberts was originally expected to testify for her ex-husband in the defamation proceedings, but will now be called to give evidence for the media outlets instead. On Wednesday, the federal court released a series of exhibits in the defamation case that shed light on Mr. Roberts-Smith's former relationship with Person 17, a woman with whom he has admitted he had an affair. "I do think about you every waking minute. You're sick, so amazing to me," Mr. Roberts-Smith said in one message in December 2017. But he said that because M is trying so hard I feel like ST, and really nervous about hurting her. He said in another text in 2018 that he loved Person 17, and we just need to stay focused, adding that his wife had been sent a book entitled 201 Techniques to Pleasure Your Husband, and he had interpreted this as someone having a go at me. "Jesus. Did she see it? That's creepy and really weird," Person 17 replied.